Many people believe that if someone is destined for something great, their path will somehow be easier. They imagine that opportunity will appear at the right time, that doors will open naturally, and that life will guide them gently toward their purpose. But in reality, the opposite is often true. For the chosen one, life rarely begins with ease. Instead, it begins with resistance. It begins with moments that feel confusing, unfair, and sometimes painfully lonely. While others seem to move forward with clear direction, the chosen one often finds themselves walking through uncertainty, facing obstacles that appear far heavier than expected. These trials can take many forms. Sometimes it is isolation, the quiet feeling of not quite fitting in anywhere. Sometimes it is repeated failure, where every attempt seems to collapse just before success arrives. And sometimes it is emotional wounds, experiences that leave deep marks on the heart and mind. There are moments when it feels as if life itself is testing you. You try to move forward, but something blocks your way. You work hard, yet recognition never seems to come. You trust people, only to face disappointment or betrayal. And during those moments, it is easy to wonder why things feel so difficult when all you want is progress, clarity, and peace. Many people go through life searching for comfort and stability, but the path of the chosen one rarely follows that pattern. Instead of smooth progress, there are storms. Instead of constant support, there are seasons of solitude. Instead of immediate success, there are long periods where nothing seems to make sense. And yet, these experiences are not always random. Throughout history, many individuals who eventually achieved something meaningful first walked through periods of intense struggle. Before clarity came confusion. Before strength came pressure. Before recognition came years of being overlooked or misunderstood. These early trials often shape the mindset, discipline, and resilience that later define who they become. If you have ever felt like your life is filled with challenges that other people do not seem to face, you are not alone. There are moments when it feels as if every door closes right when you are trying to move forward. Moments when the path ahead becomes unclear and doubt begins to grow louder than hope. During those times, it is easy to believe that something must be wrong, that perhaps you are failing, or that you have taken the wrong direction. But sometimes, what feels like resistance is actually preparation. Sometimes the pressure you experience is not meant to break you, but to shape you. Just as steel becomes stronger through intense heat and pressure, human character is often formed through difficult experiences. The challenges you face can sharpen your thinking, deepen your understanding of people, and build a level of emotional resilience that comfort alone could never create. This is why the journey of the chosen one is rarely simple. The struggles appear first, not because the person is weak, but because the path they are walking demands strength that must be developed over time. Each challenge becomes a lesson, each setback forces reflection, each period of isolation creates space for clarity and growth. In this video, we are going to explore why the chosen one often has to suffer before their rise truly begins. We will look at how hardship can reshape identity, why periods of isolation often appear on this path, and how the struggles you face today may be building the strength you will carry into the future. Because sometimes, the greatest transformation does not begin with success, it begins with struggle. And if this message resonates with you, take a moment to support the channel. Like this video so more people can discover it. Share it with someone who might need encouragement right now, and subscribe to the channel for more content exploring the journey of the chosen one. One of the first and most difficult trials that many chosen ones face is the breaking of their old identity. Before someone can rise into a greater role, the version of themselves that once felt safe, familiar, and predictable often has to fall apart. This process rarely happens gently. More often, it arrives through moments that feel confusing, painful, and deeply unsettling. Life begins to remove the structures that once defined who they thought they were. For a long time, most people build their identity around the expectations of the world around them. Family expectations, social norms, cultural values, and personal ambitions all combine to form a version of self that seems stable. A person may believe they understand who they are, what they want, and where their life is going. They create plans, follow certain paths, and attempt to fit into the roles that society presents as success. In those early stages, Life may appear relatively normal, even if something deep inside quietly whispers that there is more to discover. But for the chosen one, there often comes a moment when this carefully built identity begins to crack. Something happens that disrupts the direction they once believed was certain. It might be rejection from an opportunity they worked hard for. It might be the collapse of a relationship they trusted deeply. It might be a career path that suddenly feels empty or meaningless, despite years of effort invested in it. In some cases, the disruption comes as a series of events rather than a single moment. Failures repeat. Expectations collapse. The person begins to feel like the version of themselves they once relied on no longer works. At first, this stage feels like loss. The person may feel as if they are losing control over their own life. The roles they once played no longer fit comfortably. The plans they once trusted no longer seem reliable. What once felt clear becomes uncertain. And uncertainty has a way of exposing deeper questions that were previously hidden beneath routine and distraction. During these moments, a person may begin to confront questions that are far more personal and far more difficult than anything they faced before. Questions that do not have simple answers, questions that require deep honesty and reflection. Who am I really? What path am I truly meant to follow? Why does the life I once believed in suddenly feel incomplete? These questions can feel overwhelming because they challenge the very foundation of a person's identity. The answers cannot be found quickly. They require patience, introspection, and often a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about oneself. For many people, this stage is frightening enough that they avoid it entirely. Rather than questioning the identity they built, they attempt to rebuild the same structure again. They search for distractions, return to familiar habits, or try to restore the sense of stability they once had. But for the chosen one, this breaking point cannot easily be avoided. The circumstances of life continue to push them toward reflection. Situations repeat themselves in ways that make it impossible to ignore the deeper transformation that is taking place. The old identity keeps weakening until it becomes clear that holding onto it will only prolong confusion. This stage often feels like chaos. The person may feel disconnected from the life they once understood. They may experience periods of doubt, where they question their own abilities, their decisions, and even their purpose. They may look around and see others moving forward with apparent certainty, while they themselves feel suspended in uncertainty. That comparison can intensify the sense of isolation, yet within that confusion lies the beginning of transformation. When the old identity breaks down, it creates space for something new to emerge. The expectations that once limited the person begin to lose their power. Without the pressure to maintain a version of themselves that was built around external validation, they gain the opportunity to explore deeper aspects of who they truly are. Instead of asking what the world expects from them, they begin asking what genuinely resonates with their inner values. Instead of chasing approval, they start seeking meaning. Instead of following paths that once appeared impressive, they begin exploring directions that feel authentic. This shift does not happen overnight. Transformation rarely arrives as a sudden revelation. More often, it unfolds gradually through reflection, learning, and experience. The chosen one may spend long periods examining their beliefs, their fears, and the motivations that once drove their decisions. They may discover strengths they never recognized before. They may also uncover weaknesses that require growth and discipline. The collapse of the old identity is therefore not merely destruction, it is reconstruction at a deeper level. Think of identity like a structure built over time. In the beginning, many people construct their sense of self using materials that were handed to them by others. Expectations from parents, messages from society, comparisons with peers, and cultural definitions of success all contribute to the foundation. These materials create stability, but they do not always reflect the true nature of the individual. When life begins to challenge that structure, the foundation may reveal its weaknesses. Cracks appear, the structure shakes under pressure. While this process feels frightening, it also reveals an important truth. The structure was never meant to remain permanent in its original form. For the chosen one, the breaking of the old identity allows them to rebuild their sense of self, using stronger foundations. Instead of constructing identity from external expectations, they begin building it from internal clarity. Values become more important than appearances. Purpose becomes more important than approval. Integrity becomes more important than comfort. This transformation also reshapes how they respond to adversity. When identity is built around external validation, rejection feels devastating. Failure feels like proof that something is fundamentally wrong. But when identity begins to form from deeper self-awareness, challenges take on a different meaning. Instead of defining the person, they become experiences that refine the person. Over time, the chosen one begins to develop a level of emotional resilience that was impossible before the breaking process began. They learn that discomfort is not always a signal to retreat. Sometimes it is a signal to grow. They learn that losing one path does not mean losing their entire direction. It may simply mean that the path was never aligned with who they were meant to become. This stage also teaches patience. When identity collapses, there is often a period where the new version has not yet fully formed. The person exists between two versions of themselves. The old identity no longer fits, but the new identity is still emerging. Living in that space requires endurance. It requires trusting that clarity will come, even when it cannot yet be seen. Many chosen ones spend years in this transitional phase. During that time, they experiment with different directions, explore new ideas, and learn from experiences that once would have frightened them. Gradually, the confusion begins to transform into understanding. Patterns become clearer. Personal strengths become more visible. Purpose begins to reveal itself not as a sudden revelation, but as a growing sense of alignment between who they are and what they are doing. Eventually, the person who emerges from this process is very different from the person who entered it. The new identity is not built around imitation or expectation. It is built around authenticity. It reflects the lessons learned through struggle and the insights gained through reflection. This is why the suffering that breaks the old identity is such an important stage in the journey of the chosen one. Without it, the person might continue living within limitations they never questioned. They might follow paths that appear successful but feel empty. They might spend their entire lives trying to maintain an identity that was never truly their own. The breaking process forces honesty. It removes illusions. It reveals what is real and what is merely inherited belief. And while the experience is often painful, it also contains a powerful opportunity. Because once the old identity collapses, the chosen one is no longer confined by it. They are free to rebuild themselves with greater awareness, stronger purpose, and deeper authenticity. In the end, the breaking of the old identity is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of becoming who they were always meant to be. Another common trial on the path of the chosen one is isolation. While the breaking of the old identity begins the process of transformation, isolation often becomes the environment where that transformation deepens. For many people walking this path, there comes a period in life where they begin to feel noticeably different from those around them. The conversations that once felt engaging may start to feel shallow. The goals that motivate others may no longer feel meaningful. The rhythms of everyday life begin to feel slightly out of alignment with something deeper that is quietly forming within. At first, this difference can be confusing. A person may wonder why they suddenly feel disconnected from the social circles they once belonged to. Friends may not understand the questions that occupy their mind. Family members may encourage them to return to familiar paths that once appeared stable. Yet internally, something has changed. The chosen one begins to sense that the direction they are meant to follow cannot always be explained easily to others. This shift often leads to a period of isolation. Sometimes the isolation happens externally, through circumstances that separate the person from their usual environment. Other times it happens internally, where even when surrounded by people, the person still feels alone in their thoughts and experiences. The sense of being misunderstood or out of place can create a quiet emotional distance between them and the world around them. Isolation is rarely comfortable. Human beings are naturally social creatures, and connection provides a sense of belonging that helps people feel safe and supported. When that connection weakens, a person may begin to question themselves. They may wonder if they are drifting too far from what is normal, or if the path they are exploring is leading them away from the life they once knew. Yet for the chosen one, isolation often becomes one of the most important stages of growth. When a person is surrounded by constant noise, opinions, and expectations, it becomes difficult to hear their own voice clearly. The thoughts of others can easily influence decisions. External approval can become the main measure of success. But when isolation appears, those external influences begin to fade. The person is left alone with their own thoughts, their own doubts, and their own curiosity about life. In that quiet space, something important begins to develop. Without the constant presence of others guiding their decisions, the chosen one is forced to rely on their own judgment. They must examine their beliefs more carefully. They must decide what truly matters to them, rather than what simply satisfies the expectations of others. This process can feel uncomfortable because it removes the safety of consensus. There is no group to confirm whether their thinking is correct. Instead, they must learn to trust their own reasoning. This is where inner strength begins to form. Inner strength is not something that appears instantly. It grows through repeated moments where a person must stand alone in their convictions. It grows when they choose authenticity over approval. It grows when they remain committed to their direction, even when others fail to understand it. During isolation, the chosen one also begins to develop a deeper connection with their intuition. Intuition is often quiet and subtle. It rarely competes well with the loud opinions of a crowded environment. But when solitude creates space for reflection, intuition becomes easier to hear. The person begins to notice patterns in their experiences. They begin to recognize which situations align with their deeper sense of purpose and which ones feel misaligned. This awareness gradually sharpens their perception. Instead of reacting automatically to every opportunity or expectation, they begin to evaluate whether each path truly resonates with who they are becoming. Over time, their decisions become less reactive and more intentional. Isolation also strengthens emotional resilience. When people are constantly supported by others, it is easy to depend on that support as the primary source of motivation and reassurance. But when someone spends long periods navigating life on their own, they begin to develop a more stable internal foundation. They learn how to encourage themselves when doubt appears. They learn how to recover from disappointment without relying entirely on external validation. This resilience becomes a powerful asset later in life. The chosen one, who has endured seasons of solitude, often develops a level of emotional stability that allows them to face future challenges with calm determination. They understand that temporary loneliness does not define their worth. They understand that moments of uncertainty are part of growth rather than signs of failure. Another important transformation that occurs during isolation is clarity. When a person is constantly moving through busy environments, their attention becomes divided. Responsibilities, conversations, and distractions fill their schedule. In such an environment, it becomes difficult to step back and examine the deeper direction of one's life. Solitude creates the opposite condition. Without constant distractions, the mind begins to process experiences more thoroughly. Questions that were once ignored begin to surface. The chosen one may spend long hours reflecting on past decisions, examining their motivations, and imagining the future they truly want to build. Through this reflection, clarity gradually emerges. The person begins to recognize which values matter most to them. They begin to see which environments bring out their strongest qualities and which ones drain their energy. They begin to identify the type of impact they want their life to have. This clarity cannot easily be rushed. It develops slowly as the mind processes experiences and lessons over time. The years of solitude that many chosen ones experience often become the period where these insights accumulate. During this time, independence also grows stronger. Instead of relying heavily on the guidance of others, the chosen one becomes more capable of directing their own path. They learn how to make decisions based on careful thought rather than social pressure. They learn how to navigate uncertainty without immediate reassurance. This independence does not mean rejecting all forms of connection. Instead, it means that their sense of direction no longer depends entirely on external approval. They become capable of standing confidently in their choices, even when others cannot yet see the same vision. Many historical figures who later achieved significant influence spent long periods in relative solitude before their impact became visible. During those years, they studied, reflected, questioned existing beliefs, and refined their understanding of the world. From the outside, those seasons may have appeared unproductive, yet internally, those years were shaping the clarity and strength that would later guide their actions. In the same way, the isolation experienced by many chosen ones is rarely wasted time. Although it may feel slow and uncertain in the moment, it creates the conditions necessary for deeper development. Wisdom grows when the mind has space to observe and reflect. Independence grows when decisions must be made without constant guidance. Inner strength grows when a person learns to rely on their own resilience. Eventually, the chosen one begins to emerge from this period with a different perspective on life. They no longer fear being alone with their thoughts. They understand the value of silence and reflection. They recognize that meaningful direction often emerges during moments when the world becomes quiet enough for truth to surface. By the time they re-engage more fully with the world around them, they carry something that cannot easily be shaken by external pressure. Their sense of identity has deepened. Their thinking has matured. Their emotional resilience has strengthened. What once felt like isolation now reveals itself as preparation. The solitude that once felt heavy has quietly built the foundation for independence, clarity, and inner strength. And for the chosen one, these qualities become essential, because the path ahead will require not only vision, but the ability to stand firmly in that vision, even when the world around them moves in a different direction. Another reason the chosen one often suffers before rising is because the responsibility ahead of them is greater than most people realize. In many stories of transformation, people focus only on the moment of success. They admire the strength, the clarity, or the influence that a person eventually carries. What is often overlooked, however, is the preparation required before someone can responsibly hold that level of impact. Responsibility changes a person's life in ways that many people underestimate. Influence over others, the ability to guide decisions, or the role of leading through difficult circumstances, all require a type of maturity that cannot simply be learned from theory. It must be built through experience. It must be tested under pressure. Without that preparation, the weight of responsibility can easily overwhelm someone who has never faced adversity. For this reason, the path of the chosen one often includes seasons of pain long before any visible rise occurs. These experiences are not random obstacles. They function as a form of training, gradually shaping the emotional and psychological strength required for the role the person may later hold. When someone has never encountered serious hardship, their understanding of life remains limited. Challenges may feel intolerable because they have not yet developed the resilience to face them. Small setbacks can feel like major failures. Criticism may feel like a personal attack rather than an opportunity to grow. Pressure can cause confusion or panic because the person has not yet learned how to maintain clarity when circumstances become difficult. In contrast, someone who has endured deep challenges over time begins to develop a very different response to adversity. Hardship forces them to adapt. Each difficult experience teaches them how to remain steady when situations become uncertain. Over time, they learn that emotional reactions do not have to control their decisions. They learn that setbacks can be endured and overcome. Through repeated trials, emotional strength begins to take root. This strength is not the absence of pain, but the ability to move forward despite it. A person who has faced disappointment, loss, and uncertainty gradually learns that difficult emotions are temporary. They learn that fear, frustration, and doubt do not define the future, unless they allow those emotions to dictate their choices. This emotional strength becomes especially important when a person eventually steps into positions that affect others. Leadership, in any form, exposes a person to criticism, pressure, and expectations that are often unpredictable. Without emotional resilience, these pressures can lead to poor decisions or loss of direction. But someone who has already endured hardship understands how to remain balanced, even when circumstances become intense. Alongside emotional strength, patience also develops through suffering. In a world that often rewards speed and immediate results, patience can feel like an undervalued quality. Yet patience is essential for anyone responsible for guiding long-term outcomes. Meaningful progress rarely occurs instantly. Growth, whether personal or collective, unfolds gradually. A person who has faced difficult periods in life understands this truth deeply. They know what it means to wait through uncertainty. They know how it feels to work towards something without immediate recognition or reward. Because of this, they become less likely to make impulsive decisions driven by short-term frustration. Instead, they learn to evaluate situations with a broader perspective. Patience allows them to see beyond temporary obstacles. It helps them recognize that challenges often contain lessons that only reveal themselves over time. This mindset becomes extremely valuable when they later encounter complex situations where quick reactions might create greater problems. Another profound transformation that suffering produces is empathy. When someone has experienced real struggle, they gain insight into the difficulties that other people face. Hardship removes the illusion that life is simple or predictable. It reveals the complexity of human experience and the hidden battles that many individuals carry silently. Empathy changes how a person interacts with the world. Instead of judging others quickly, they become more capable of understanding different perspectives. Instead of dismissing someone's pain as weakness, they recognize the courage it takes to endure difficult circumstances. This deeper understanding allows them to connect with people in a more meaningful way. In many cases, individuals who later influence or lead others are most effective when they possess this kind of empathy. People are more willing to trust someone who understands their struggles, rather than someone who speaks from a place of detached authority. Empathy creates respect because it shows that leadership is not merely about control or power. It is about guidance, responsibility, and awareness of the human experience. This is why many narratives about the Chosen One portray suffering not as punishment, but as preparation. The pain that appears early in their journey gradually shapes the qualities they will need later. Emotional strength helps them remain steady under pressure. Patience allows them to make thoughtful decisions. Empathy enables them to understand and support others. Without these qualities, influence can become dangerous. Power without emotional discipline can lead to arrogance. Authority without empathy can lead to cruelty. Responsibility without patience can lead to reckless decisions. The trials experienced by the Chosen One serve as safeguards against these outcomes. Through hardship, the Chosen One learns humility. They understand that success is rarely achieved alone. They remember the moments when they struggled, the times when they doubted themselves, and the experiences that forced them to grow. These memories keep them grounded, even when their influence increases. Hardship also teaches perspective. When someone has faced significant challenges, they develop a clearer sense of what truly matters. Minor distractions lose their power. Superficial recognition becomes less important. Instead, they focus on purpose, contribution, and the impact their actions have on the lives of others. As these qualities develop, the Chosen One becomes increasingly capable of handling greater responsibility. Their decisions are no longer driven purely by personal ambition. They are guided by experience, reflection, and an understanding of how actions can affect many people. At this stage, the suffering they once endured begins to reveal its deeper meaning. What once felt like unfair obstacles now appears as part of a larger process that shaped their character. The pain that seemed pointless now becomes the very foundation that allows them to carry responsibility with wisdom. The rise of the Chosen One, therefore, does not occur simply because they desire success. It happens because they've been prepared for it. Each hardship they endured strengthened a different part of their character. Each challenge refined their ability to navigate complex situations. By the time the opportunity to rise appears, they are no longer the same person who first began the journey. They have developed resilience that allows them to face pressure without losing clarity. They have cultivated patience that allows them to pursue long-term outcomes rather than immediate gratification. They have gained empathy that allows them to understand and support those who walk beside them. In this way, suffering becomes more than a painful chapter of the story. It becomes the process through which the Chosen One is shaped into someone capable of carrying influence responsibly. The hardships they endure do not simply test their endurance, they refine their character. They deepen their understanding of life, and ultimately, they prepare them to handle the influence, responsibility, and leadership that may come when their time to rise finally arrives. If you are going through a difficult season in your life right now, it is important to remember something powerful. Moments of struggle do not always mean that you are lost or that you have taken the wrong path. In fact, some of the most meaningful transformations in life begin during periods that feel confusing, exhausting, or uncertain. When challenges appear repeatedly, it is natural to question everything. You may begin to wonder why progress feels slow, while others seem to move forward with ease. You may question whether the effort you are putting into your growth will ever truly lead somewhere. These thoughts are common when a person is walking through a difficult chapter of life. Yet the presence of struggle does not automatically mean that something is wrong. Sometimes it means that something important is being built beneath the surface. Growth rarely happens in comfort. When life is easy and predictable, there is little reason to change or evolve. People tend to remain within the limits of what they already know. But when difficulty appears, it forces reflection. It pushes a person to look deeper into their habits, their beliefs, and their direction. It reveals strengths that were previously hidden and challenges weaknesses that once went unnoticed. This is why struggles are not always signs that you are on the wrong path. Sometimes they are the very experiences that shape you into the person you are meant to become. The pressure you feel today may be developing resilience that will serve you later. The confusion you face now may be guiding you toward a clearer understanding of your purpose. And the setbacks that slow you down may be teaching lessons that success alone could never provide. The path of the chosen one is rarely comfortable. It is not a journey defined by constant recognition or smooth progress. Instead, it is often filled with storms, setbacks, and moments of doubt. There are times when the direction ahead feels uncertain. There are times when the weight of responsibility feels heavier than expected. There are even moments when it feels easier to abandon the journey altogether. Yet those very trials are often what forge unbreakable strength. Every storm leaves behind experience. Every setback teaches patience. Every moment of doubt invites deeper self-awareness. Over time, these lessons begin to shape the person who walks through them. What once felt like weakness becomes resilience. What once felt like confusion becomes wisdom. And what once felt like isolation becomes independence. Many of the greatest transformations happen quietly, far from recognition or applause. They occur in the silent moments when a person chooses to continue despite difficulty. They occur when someone decides to learn from their experiences instead of being defeated by them. These choices may seem small in the moment, but they gradually build a foundation of strength that cannot easily be shaken. And very often, the greatest rise appears shortly after the darkest season. When a person has endured hardship and continued moving forward, they develop a kind of strength that is difficult to break. They learn how to face uncertainty without losing direction. They learn how to remain calm when pressure appears. They learn how to carry responsibility with maturity and awareness. This is the deeper meaning behind the trials many chosen ones experience. The storms are not simply obstacles, they are part of the preparation that shapes who the person becomes. And when the time to rise finally arrives, the strength developed through those difficult seasons becomes the very reason they are able to stand with confidence. So if you find yourself in a challenging chapter of life right now, remember that your story is still unfolding. The difficulties you face today do not define your final destination. They may simply be shaping the strength that will carry you forward. And if this video spoke to you, or gave you a new perspective on the struggles you may be facing, take a moment to support the channel. Like this video so more people can discover it, share it with someone who might need encouragement today, and subscribe to the channel for more insights about the journey of the chosen one.